Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for once again joining me for tea time. Today we have a little bit of fireside. That smokiness of the lap sun, just absolutely love it, love it. Hope you're joining me with your cup of tea, cup of coffee, or whatever you have over there. Today is going to be a video tech day. So, you know, we do on this channel photo, video, and tech, but today is kind of like a combination. I'm going to be showing you a new product that I got in for switching, for doing video. I use something similar to this, but even bigger when we're working on location, doing episodic TV or any type of work in a control room. We have a similar type of product, but with more inputs. This one has 4, and for the majority of the people out there that are trying to stream, this is absolutely perfect. Now, a lot of folks out there use all different types of methods of streaming. Some use like things like Ecamm, some vMix, some just use like OBS studios. There's a lot of different ways of streaming, Wirecast, but using a hardwire mixer is just a better way of going. So I want to go over this product with you, and if it's something that you like, you can pick it up. If not, maybe you'll get some good information from this and maybe get an idea of should you use a hardware switcher, no matter if it's this one or a different one, or should you go with software? I think it's a very important question, especially if you're going to be streaming stuff that is going to be a little bit more professional or you cannot have any hiccups. Hardware is the way to go. Now, unlike some of the videos that I've seen about this switcher and others, they'll just talk about the specs and then that'll be about it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you exactly hands-on on how it works. I'm putting in 4 feeds and I'm going to show you the switching and what you can do and what you can't do with it so that you can actually see it working. I think that should help. Now, this hardware switcher is called a FEELWORLD L2 PLUS, and it's pretty cool. So I'm going to show it to you, but I want to read you the specs so you know exactly what's going on. Now, you know I don't like specs, but a lot of folks that are listening to this video, they want to know what the specs are of this switcher to see if it's something that they can use or possibly not. So starting out on the back of the unit itself, you have 4 HDMI inputs. That is HDMI signals coming into the unit. Also, you have 1 HDMI output. So if you want to send that to a monitor to be able to show the talent what is going on, you can do that also. There is a 12-volt DC power port on the back, and what I really like about this one, it is the screw type, so that in the middle of a broadcast, you can't accidentally pull it out, and now all of a sudden, everything is gone. So that is also nice. Now, on the left-hand side, while looking at it, on the left-hand side, you'll see 1 RJ45, your network port. You also have 1 USB 3.0 port. That is what sends your video feed to your computer. And you also have an audio port in and an audio port out. Now, on the right-hand side, you have an on-off power switch. What's nice about that is in the old version, the L1, you didn't have that power switch. You'd have to unplug it and plug it back in. So having that power switch on the side is awesome. You'll also find a quarter 20. Now, that's great. So if you want to mount this on the top of a camera or on a stick somewhere, you can do that also if you don't want it just laying on the table. Now, on the bottom of the unit, there's no inputs, but what you can see is a fan. Now, this fan I'm going to talk to you about in a little while, but there is a fan for active cooling. And finally, on the front of the unit, you'll find these vents. And the vents are where that hot air that's being pulled through the unit using that fan are being ducted out so that you have that nice movement of cool air through the internals to keep it cool. Now, I want to get into some of the features so that you know exactly what this unit is capable of. And then after, I'll show you some of these in practice, let's say, working. Now, to start out with, it does have that USB capture that does comply with UVC for live streaming, which is great. Once again, it does have 4 channels so that you have those 4 HDMIs that come into it, into the switcher that you can switch between. Now, the unit does show you PST as well as PGM, which is your preview and your program, so you know which is live. And speaking about that, it does show this on a 5.1-inch touch screen. Now, the old version 1 only had like a little tiny screen. It was probably like 1.5 inches or something. It was tiny. So now you do have that 5.1-inch screen and it is touch. So that is awesome. So you don't just have to use the dials or the T-bar or anything like that. You can literally touch to make things happen. Now, it also has an auto cut or a manual switch T-bar. Now, like I said, that T-bar allows you to transfer from preview into program mode, just simply by moving the T-bar. Now, you can set that T-bar so that it does any type of transitions, and I'll get into some of those transitions in a minute, but it allows you to, when you flip that T-bar fully in one direction or the other, it will then transition using the transition of your choice from your preview into program. And it does it in a specific set period of time. So it can be a 0.5 second transition, a 1 second, a 2 second transition, however you want it. But what is also cool is you can set it in the software itself, the built-in application, to set that T-bar to move according to how you move it. So you are in control of the transition. So let's say you're doing a wipe. Instead of just moving the T-bar and then it wipes across the screen to like a 1 second swipe. So now you can move the T-bar and make it as slow or as fast of a wipe that you want it to be. So that's really cool. It gives you that full tactile functioning of moving. I love that. It also gives you 14 of those transitions. And like I said, I'll show you some of them. Most of them to me are gimmicky kind of crap. I mean, I would never use it, like a star or a circle. It's just old kind of school. Most of the transitions that you're going to see are going to be either a swipe from side to side, or you're going to see a fade in and out, which is the majority of what you see, kind of like that fade, or just a hard cut. So either which way, those are the three that I would use for the most part. Now, it does support 6-picture PVW, which is great. Also, it does have these licensable features like DSK as well as PTZ control and whatnot. If you don't know what some of these things are, maybe I'll get into some of them. For example, PTZ stands for pan, tilt, and zoom. So if you want a pan, tilt, and zoom camera, that is going to be a, let's say, an operator-less camera so that it can zoom in and zoom out of your talent without having an operator there. You can control it through this unit. Now, what's also neat is you can download an application and now do all of the programming straight through a mobile device like your phone. So if you don't want someone in the control room doing the switching and you want to do it yourself and you're literally with the talent now on the other side of the building, you can actually do it through your phone. I do like that because that gives you additional functionality. Now, as far as streaming goes, you can stream to just about any platform with this. So you can stream through Facebook or through YouTube or Twitch or TikTok or whatever. Anything that will allow that USB 3 feed, that video and audio feed to come through, you're golden. For me, I use OBS Studio. I absolutely love OBS Studio, and I'll show you some of that in just a minute on how I use it. Once again, OBS is free. Now, talking about OBS Studios, before I jump into this and show you how this works, I just want to tell you why, once again, I use this. Now, in the past, I've used a program called Touch Portal, and I used to do some switching, but using an older iPad, and that worked out great. Until we started getting into some glitchy issues, and then it wasn't connecting right anymore through the internal LAN, and it was just a problem. So then we moved into Stream Deck, and now Stream Deck is absolutely awesome. It's 10 times better than using Touch Portal, in my personal opinion. It's more solid, more stable, okay, less problems. But even though there's less problems with the Stream Deck, there is still problems. And what ends up happening is every once in a while when I'm moving from scene to scene, it will get stuck. And the only way to unstick it, so to speak, would be to restart OBS and then come back into OBS and sometimes even restart the Stream Deck software and get that marriage or that pairing to happen once again. It's a problem. Now, if it's just for me and we're just doing this for fun, like what we are doing here, that's okay. But if you need something more professional, or if you're going live, you can't have your OBS go down and now you have to actually shut down the stream completely and then restart OBS and then reconnect the stream, and people are sitting there like, where in the hell did this guy go? So you don't want that. And that's why I always recommend using a hardware switcher whenever possible. Now, can you use a hardware switcher with other software and not OBS? Absolutely. But I've tried it with OBS now for quite some time. I've been using it for about 2 weeks now before even doing this review. And I've not had a problem yet. So the functionality between, or the pairing between this unit and OBS is just perfect. And I think that's because there's no Wi-Fi going on. There's no connection through Ethernet or nothing. It's literally a USB 3 plug right into the back of the computer, and then OBS just pulls that information right in. It's pretty straightforward. So I personally like it. I think it's awesome. Now, the unit itself allows you to do stuff like chroma key. So I don't have a green background. We're not going to be doing chroma key today, but it allows you to do that. It also allows you to do PTZ, like I said, which is that pan, tilt, and zoom using those cameras. But what I like about it is you can also do PIP, or picture in picture. And I'm going to show you some of that also in just a second. So anyways, let me stop flapping my lips. Before I get into the actual showing you how this works, I want to say that if you haven't downloaded any of my ebooks as of yet, go check them out. Go over to jcristina.com/books. Once again, jcristina.com/books. Go check them out. Anyways, let's dive right into this. So now you can see the unit itself. We can see on the side, we have this blue wire, which is that USB 3.0 cable. This is the Ethernet cable. We have a power cable, and then we have 4 HDMI cables that are leading into the unit, and finally 1 HDMI going out. So that is it. Very simple. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you just a couple of things. I'm not going to dig in too deep, but just the general use. I want to show you what the screen looks like on OBS. Now you can see that I am talking. In the preview window is my full desktop. So now if I just push this button here, now you can see the desktop itself. I am in the preview window, and the desktop is what you are seeing. Now to change things up a little bit, let me go back to me being the program. So I am currently coming out to you. Now if I want to change this, for example, right behind me, I have an Xbox. All right. So if I push number 2, which would be feed number 2, and move the T-bar down, you can see we now just transitioned from myself into the Xbox. Now on the other side of the room, I have a retro game cabinet. Now let me go back to myself by just simply moving the T-bar up. So now once again, now in PST, we can see the Xbox, and then in program, we can see myself. Now in the third HDMI input, we have what I call my time machine. That is a RetroPie arcade, an old, looks like a 1980s arcade machine. So now if I hit number 3 for my input and then move the T-bar down, this right here is what you would see on the game machine, where it's just switching up images. Now, if I wanted to go to another camera, which would be my 4th camera, which is up here, that's pointing down this way, I would hit input number 4 and then move my T-bar up. And as you can see, now we're looking through this camera and we can see it coming in this direction. So we have 4 cameras right now available to us. We have the main. We can push number 1, move the T-bar. That would be the main cam, which would be me. I could hit camera 2, which would be my Xbox. That right there is the Xbox scene that is going on right now. I could hit number 3, and that moves back over to the arcade machine on the other side of the room, probably 20, 25 feet away. Yes, I have a very long HDMI cable. And then finally, number 4, if I push the T-bar, we can see this camera coming down. Now, this is really great because all of this information, everything that is going on here, is being pushed into our OBS. And now when we're looking at OBS, you can see what my screen looks like. We have our preview as well as our program. So anything that I want to do through this device will happen in this program window now. So you can see myself in the program window. If I push number 2 and I hit the T-bar, once again in the program window, now we can see the Xbox. Let me change it back to me. Now, if I want to change this to a PIP type of situation, a picture-in-picture, instead of OBS, I can use this software. So if I come over here to the function button and now use this knob to just move over to PIP and then push the knob in, it gives me options. Right now, PIP is set to off. Let's just go ahead and change this to lower left. When I push the button, you can see here in the preview window or PST, you can see the PIP there. Now, if I move the T-bar up, you can see now in program mode, I am now in a small window on the bottom. And the Xbox is currently running. Now, what's cool about this is we can change this on the fly. So if I want to change this to, let's say, a background of, instead of the Xbox running, maybe I want the background of my hand. So I want to show you that. So now what I have to do is move the T bar once again over. What that will do is it will move that PIP to preview mode. And that's when we can make our changes. We cannot change PIP while it's in program mode or while it's being broadcast. So we use that T-bar to move over, and now we see I am here with that Xbox running. Now, if I want to change that Xbox to something else, I can tap on that window. It says Layer A. So I can change Layer A by just clicking down here to, let's say, my hands. So now if I move this T-bar up, you can see I have my hands here, this hand shot with the PIP of me talking to you at the bottom. So this is really cool to be able to do it like this, because now I can do this PIP any way I want it, and I can do it within the actual hardware. I don't have to do it through the Stream Deck, and that is really important. Now, once again, you can see my picture here in preview, which is the full view of me. If I move that T-bar down, and now once again, I am back, and it's only me. Now, if I want to change things up a little bit, I can do that also when it comes to, for example, transitions. If we transition back and forth, you can see it has that slow fade to it. If we want to change that to a slower fade or a faster fade, we can do that just by simply hitting that function button and select the very first option, which says mix. Now, this is your mix. This shows you how it's going to mix the two different inputs. So you have a cut. So if we set that to cut instead of fade, and now if I move this T-bar, you can see it just pops right into me. If I move it up, it pops right back to that scene. There is no fading in and out. So let's go ahead and hit function again. We're going to go to mix, and we're going to change that to a different fade. Let's say this one that goes from inner to outer. Perfect. And now let's go ahead and switch that. So you can see it moves from the inside to the outside. Once again, I'll move it this way, and now we have my hands. I move it back again, and we have me. To me, this is kind of like hokey, kind of 80s. I don't use a lot of this. For the most part, I'll use a nice simple fade, and then we can control how long the fade is on. So just taking you through some of the things that we have the mix, we have the mode, which I just showed you. We have PNP, which I just showed you earlier. When you go into PNP, you can see where the PNP is going to happen. Right now, we have PNP on the lower left. If we want to change that to, let's say, the lower right, we can push lower right. We hit the T-bar, and now I am on the lower right instead of on the lower left. Move the T-bar back over. Remember, you have to move back over to preview before you make any setting changes. So now we can go and change this to, let's say, upper right-hand corner like this, hit the button, hit the T-bar, and there, once again, now we are on the upper right-hand corner of this specific scene. So let's go ahead and move me back over to the lower left-hand corner. We'll hit PNP, we'll dial over to lower left-hand corner, hit the toggle button, and as you can see, now I'm once again on the lower left, and I can toggle back and forth with the T-bar, and that's basically it. Very simple. You can also change whichever you want inside that PNP. So if I don't want myself in PNP, I can switch these around also. So now after PNP, you have your PTZ. If we push that in, once again, this shows you the settings for that PTZ camera. You would set this IP address to whatever the camera is going to be, and then this will allow you to set things up, your zoom, your focus, your pan, your tilt, and it allows you to make those modifications or movements right through this unit. And now next to PTZ, we have something that's called logo. So that allows us to watermark or stamp or put a logo on our video. Now there's one other thing that is in this menu, and that's chroma key. If we click on chroma key, it allows you to set the mix, the minimum, the margins, and what is going to be the key. Is it going to be green, cyan? How is it going to be set up? It allows you to set this and forget it so that this unit itself will be doing your chroma key instead of software. Why is that much better? Well, this unit will be doing it instead of having to use resources of your computer to do that chroma key. That's fantastic because now that's one less thing that can go wrong once again with the software. Also, you sometimes get some latency, some lag when chroma key is being used because there's a lot of processing going on. Now, this unit, once again, is doing it all for you. Now, there's one other thing in the main menu that I want to go over to. I'm not going to get into all of these settings, but if we go all the way to the very last one, it's called Settings. I push the button. Now, it allows you to set for English, fan speed, reset, a serial number. I'll blur that out. But the main thing that I want to show you is the fan speed. Now, normally this fan speed is set for 3. And if I push that, let me let you listen to that. I'm going to move my mic down a little bit so you can hear this. You hear that, guys? That is pretty loud. That is pretty loud. And to me, I just simply think that that's too loud. That's how it comes. The fan is just blasting. And I'm going to get into that in just a second. Let me go ahead and change that back over because that's just not going to work for me. I'm going to change this back to fan speed. I'm going to move that down to fan speed 1. Now, let me get into some of the positives and negatives here. Let me just transition back over to myself. I didn't find any glitching happening with OBS ever. There was a good, let's say, connectivity between the two. I didn't use a PTZ and I didn't use chroma key, but I'm going to say it's probably going to work pretty well, just like the rest of the unit itself. But once again, your miles may vary. If someone else did a testing on those two, go check out those videos. As far as my use case, this thing just simply, once again, works, and it works really quite well. I absolutely love this touch screen because being able to touch things and just getting things to happen just with a touch, that is absolutely awesome. Being able to take your layer 1 and your layer 2 or your layer A and your layer B and switch them just by clicking on things instead of moving, it's just so simple and so quick. And if you're in a control room, trust me, this is what you're going to want. You're going to want something really super simple, easy, and to be able to move things around without having any kind of problems. P to Z, once again, is awesome if you do not have a camera operator. Now, like when I'm doing like an episodic TV thing, or if I'm doing any type of video that most of the time we're going to have 4 cameras going, 5 cameras, there's going to be an operator on all of them. Maybe on a main cam, on a wide shot, there won't be. You'll just be on a sticks and call it a day. But for the most part, all the cameras are going to have some type of operator because you're going to want a zoomed in or a tight shot. You're going to want a wide shot on the camera. You're going to have like an OTS, like an over the shoulder type of shot, all different types of things. And a camera operator just simply makes it very, very simple. Now, if you do not have a camera operator, it's not in your budget, that's when you look into these PTZ type of camera units. And you can get some really good PTZ units that cost, $8 grand. But for the majority of them, they're a few $100, $500. Some of them are 4K. A lot of them are 1080. I don't like them because you cannot change the lens. Your depth of field is kind of what it is. It's almost like shooting like a high-end webcam. Also, having that remote control, whereas you can download an app. I'm not going to show you that, but it works out great. So that if you have, for example, a producer that is on set at the location where your talent is, which is normally not in the same location. I'm going to get into that about fan noise in just a second. And they are in that room where it's dead silent and they want to make a change. Instead of you making the change from, let's say, the control room, they can make that change immediately right from the phone. That is really cool. Or an iPad or whatnot. I like that. That's really cool. Also, you have this one-time purchase thing so that you can buy this unit for, let's say $500. You buy the unit and then you don't have to buy anything else. You can use OBS, which is free, like what I do. And that's it. Whereas a lot of people out there that are doing some type of broadcast, live broadcast, some type of switching, they'll go and use like an Ecamm, or they'll use like a StreamYard or a Wirecast or maybe vMix or something, and you're paying every month for this service. Once again, this is $500 done, and that's the end of it, right? And they use free software, and it works out pretty damn good. So if you're using the other software, maybe it's $40 a month, $50 a month, sometimes more. Let's say $50 a month. You're sitting at about $600 for a year. right? So in less than a year, you already have this thing paid for and you don't have any problems. Why is that? Once again, this is hardware based. The only problem that you can possibly have is if OBS lost its mind and is no longer connected through USB 3.0, which doesn't happen. I haven't seen it happen as of yet. So could it happen? Sure. So for the most part, this is the way you're going to want to go if you're going to do a broadcast that you want a little bit more professional, let's say. Or if you're doing a broadcast and it's just you and you cannot have someone else like staying on top of it and fixing any kind of problems that happen in between switching from, let's say, scene to scene, like you would, for example, with a Stream Deck. Now, I gave you all of the positives. Let me give you a couple of negatives because these are important, I'm sure, to a lot of you also. Now, one of the things that I don't like is the cable that comes with the unit. They give you a USB, this is it right here, a blue USB 3.0 cable, but the damn thing is no more than like 18 inches long. I don't know, it's the shortest USB cable I've ever seen in my life. Why they do that, I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, I get it. They want you to go and use another one, something else that you have. But even to use this, I could not even get this into my computer that's underneath my desk. The only way I was able to use this is to plug it into my monitor and from my monitor into the computer. So that's not the greatest way of doing things, but that's just the way I had to do it. Now, could I have used another longer USB cable? Sure. But I wanted to make this a point because this is something that I think that they should correct. They should give you at least not even a 3-foot, let's say a 6-foot cable. This way you can go from the unit itself underneath a desk into a computer without having a problem and not having to go out and go buy another cable. That's number one. Number two, one of the things that I don't like about this is that fan. Now, to me, I think what they should do is throw a couple of extra dollars into a better fan. There's a lot of fans out there that are really good that do not make a lot of noise at all. Ball bearing fans, fans that are just super, super silent. They should spend the extra $2, $3, $4 for a better fan. You're spending $500 for the unit or even more. You might as well put a good fan in it so you don't have this problem. Now, I have this fan running at 1. So it's kind of slow. It's still on, but you can't hear it so much through the microphone. Now, if I had this on number 2 or even on number 3, like I showed you earlier, it's like a whirlwind. It's like blasting. And that is just simply not good. I don't care how you look at it. Now, the only way that this is okay is if this unit, once again, is in a control room and the talent is in another room. And that is how most of the time things work. But with a smaller switcher like this is not going to be used by a professional setup that has 8, 9, 10 different inputs or even more. They're not going to use this. This is more for a streamer, someone that's doing it, let's say, by themselves on their computer and they're streaming to Twitch or they're streaming to TikTok or YouTube or Facebook or wherever. They're going to use this. And to have that fan so close to a mic is just not smart. So that's something that I think that they can work on, is just simply by putting in a little bit more expensive fan in the unit itself. So instead of running it slow, still not off, you can shut it off and let it overheat and burn up and melt. We don't want to do that. But instead of running it on 1, maybe you can run it on 2 and still be a low enough decibel that you don't hear it as white noise coming through the microphone. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and maybe learned something. Maybe figured out if you want a software switch or do you want a hardware switch, or something like I do, a hybrid of the two, where we have a hardware switch and software simultaneously working together in unison, and hope that it works. Anyways, hardware switch is definitely the way to go. Once again, I hope you've gotten something out of this video. If you have, throw it a thumbs up and share it with your friends, family, colleagues, whoever might be interested. Also,